the paranormal chick here, and welcome to my podcast. I've been away, took some time off, but I'm back and ready to chat about all things paranormal. Today is going to be more of a personal, it's going to be more personal today. Today I'm going to share some paranormal experiences that I've personally had, and that's kind of made me fascinated with the whole supernatural paranormal world, especially with everything going on in the world right now. There's just the Lahaina fire, all the people who lost their lives, all the families and individuals who lost everything. The fires throughout this United States, just stuff feels weird. I don't know if we're in retrograde. I don't keep up with the moon cycles, so if you do, let me know, because everything seems like it's out of whack and it's crazy. And speaking of, I know a lot of people are pushing the theory of the DEW, the direct energy weapon conspiracy, which is basically lasers made by the government that can strike anywhere and create wildfires. Is there truth behind it? I don't know. Is there evidence supporting that? Yeah, there is evidence. But until a true investigation is done, it can only stay in the land of conspiracies. But what I want to point out is whether you believe in climate change or not, our Earth is shifting. Climate is changing. Something's happening, and it's happening on a fast, drastic scale. What if all the fires that we're seeing across the US is actually caused by solar flares? What if it's our own sun and it's simply because we are destroying our Earth? I was chatting with a couple of friends today about that, and I truly think it's just that these weather anomalies, it's because of how we're treating the planet and climate change. Again, that's just my own opinion. Could be definitely something else, but we really have to kind of take a step back and look at this scientifically. Yes, something is happening. Most definitely. There's no arguing that. But now, is this truly the cause of us? Are we the ones causing this because of our pollution, because of our, plastic? I mean, plastic is by itself destroying the earth. So just wanted to put that out there. But with all this negativity around, I wanted to talk about angels. I wanted to talk about my experience with that. A lot of people have asked me, interviews that I've done with a couple of reporters, some news outlets, they've asked me what has made me fascinated with the paranormal. Why did I start doing all of this? The first reason is because there's so many witness videos, not just stories. I love stories, don't get me wrong. That's why I started the podcast, because the people who are not catching things on video but have their stories and their experiences that they can only tell you, what they experienced, I want to share those as well, because those are equally and sometimes more important than the actual video. So that's why I started the podcast. But like many others who are paranormal investigators, they've been impacted by the supernatural world. And I've been impacted by this world from a very young age. For those of you who don't know me, I do believe that there is a God. I do believe in a higher power. Do I believe in organized religion? Absolutely not. That's a different story for a different episode. But I do believe that there is a creator. How you see that creator is completely up to you, and it's okay. He can be a woman, he can be a god, he can be a goddess. It's however you view that creator. Just know that there is a creator out there of us all, right? So growing up, I was kind of raised in a religious household. We were Catholics, converted to Christianity. But very young, I started having dreams. Very vivid dreams, night terrors, that were just unexplainable. They weren't your normal night terrors. And believe it or not, I've never been the type to be attracted to like horror movies, scary movies. I've actually avoided them simply because I didn't want to give myself nightmares. I was already dealing with so many night terrors that were just not normal. And I remember I had joined a missionettes group, and I really got into the Bible and Christianity because it was helping. It was helping me to be able to finally sleep at night. It was helping me with what I was seeing. I'll get to that in a moment. I remember this is when I was living in Montana. I started going to a church group, and the minister was a Native American man. And I remember staying after with him and just talking to him, and he got me to open up, and I kind of explained my dreams, what I was going through, what I was experiencing. And I remember the way he looked at me. The way he looked at me has, even now into my age now, you don't need to know my age, even now I still remember the way he looked at me, and he simply said, "God has a path for you. You need to stay on that path." Now, to tell you a little bit about my dreams, they've always centered around angels, demons, ghosts, always. Just different stuff that happens in them. Some of those stories are very personal. I've only shared them with very select few people. I will share one of those stories with you, but not all of them, because I just feel they're very personal, and it's something that I just don't need the whole world knowing. Sorry, guys. But like I said, that's why I'm so intrigued with the paranormal, because I've been impacted from a very young age. As far as seeing things, I don't want to say I'd see ghosts, but I would see almost like shadows, at the corner of your eye when you think you saw something, and then you convince yourself that it wasn't there, but it was really there. And not just of people, but of different creatures. And believe me, I was in therapy for a very long time, because when you have a child telling you, this is what they're seeing, this is what they're experiencing, this is what they're dreaming, the first thing a parent wants to do is be like, "Oh, something's wrong, can we get a diagnosis?" I was never diagnosed with any mental craziness, just FYI, in case you're wondering. But therapy did help, especially with the night terrors, because I was able to get it out. Like I said, I was part of my missionettes group. That helped a lot. Just talking to people helped a lot. What I can tell you, people with the gift of being able to see, by doing all of those therapies and talking, you do kind of start building walls, and you close it off. It's good and it's bad. It means you can live a normal life. You don't have to be what people call the weirdo. But it makes it harder to go back and see that world. So I just thought I'd put that out there. But you can. For people who are experiencing stuff like that, even as adults, the best thing to do is mind exercise. Think of like a cage or brick walls around your brain. Just some sort of protection around your brain. Meditation, it helps a lot, are my tips for that. But going back to my experience, so I was also, this is, I need to say this because it will explain a lot. I didn't grow up in the normal American family. I grew up with a single mom who had issues, alcohol, substance abuse. She did her best, but she had a lot of her own demons that she was fighting, and just, she couldn't kick her vices. Her vices were more important than her children. Let's just put it that way. We had just left Montana, and we were back in California. We were there for already several years. I was already 12 years old. She'd gotten really sick. I don't know exactly what she had gotten sick about, but it was really bad. So she was in and out of the hospital, still doing her stuff that she shouldn't be doing. But, people with addictions, it's kind of hard to kick. I remember one night, I'll never forget that night. It's myself, my brothers, 2 brothers and a sister. We were living with my aunt at that time, and, she was partying it up, doing her thing, and then all of a sudden, her breathing, her lungs started shutting down, literally, because she has what we now know as COPD and a slew of other issues. But back then we thought it was just asthma, and it was a severe asthma attack. She passed out. We couldn't get, the steam baths, the inhalers, nothing was working. So she passed out from lack of oxygen. 911, we called 911. They got her to the hospital. They revived her, had her hooked up. And then I remember I hear the yelling. Mind you, I'm 12 years old. So me being the second oldest, my older brother was 2 years older than me, but he was special needs. So I was really the oldest. I was always taking care of everybody. I remember the doctor calling me, pulling me from the waiting room, and he has me go in the room, her ER room, triage room, whatever it was. And he's explaining to me, a 12-year-old, that I needed to convince my mother to stay in the hospital, otherwise she would die if she left. She had, I think he said, like less than 10% of oxygen getting into her lungs. Everything was closing down. Like he basically told me she was going to die that night, to be prepared. And my mother was on that bed screaming and yelling that if she was going to die, she was going to die at home. This oxygen mask on her face, tubes and wires coming out of everywhere. That's what it looked like to me. And then she started ripping at her IVs and pulled them out. And she told them, if I'm going to die, I am going to die at my home. Being 12, knowing that I had my little brother, my little sister, my older brother, that all the responsibility fell on me. I couldn't do anything at that time. I knew I still needed her, and I begged. It was one of the few times I actually broke down crying, and I begged her to stay. She refused, and they actually had her sign an NDR, which is do not resuscitate, if you're not aware. So she signed the NDR, and I'll never forget that look on that doctor's face. Like, he was just so devastated for us, for me. I don't think he cared so much about my mom because, she made her own bed, but for us. And I remember him telling me, I'm so sorry. So we get everybody in the car. We make it to the front of my school, my elementary school, and she stopped breathing. We pull her out onto the lawn, call 911, and this is what I'll never forget. We pulled her out onto the front of the school on the lawn. She's laid out. She's not breathing. We called 911. I'm kneeling at the top of the right side of her head, and my little brother is kneeling directly opposite of me, directly in front. So we're like facing each other like this. He's on the other side of her head. And I remember the paramedics arrive and them telling me there's nothing they can do. She signed the paper. They have to wait. We're crying, screaming, because she signed that paper. They just had to wait until they could call it. So I'm kneeling there. My little brother's kneeling there. And we both bow our heads and we start praying. And I remember telling God that I was too young. I still needed her. I couldn't take care of my brothers and sisters by myself. That I still needed her to please give us more time. To this day, I know exactly what I saw. As I looked up, a bright light, and all I saw was what I thought was a wing passed directly in front of me. My little brother looked up at the same time. We both saw it just pass directly in front of us. And as soon as it passed, she took a breath. She started breathing. She made it. Sadly enough, 2 years later, I was already out on my own, but she made it. But I know what I saw. And as soon as it passed, as soon as that angel passed, she started breathing. And I can tell you those paramedics, the EMTs, were shocked because they expected to take her dead body and load it on to the gurney and leave us there shattered. But she started breathing. I think about that. I think about it a lot because being human, I question it. Did I really see that? Was it just my traumatized brain? I was 12 years old. Did I conjure that? Was it wishful thinking? But then I have to remember there's more to our world than what you even realize. There is, whether you believe in God or not, there is a higher power out there that has, skin in the game. It seems like so negative all the time. But what you don't see is that there is still so much good. There's still so much that we don't hear or see, but that's going on in the background. And that's why I like to think about it. It's actually comforting now, especially when I see the world is just a mess. But I think about that and I hold tight to it because it gives me hope. Hope that things will get better. That hope that we do have somebody on our side fighting for us. We're not alone. So that's one of the main reasons that got me completely obsessed with the paranormal. Those were just one of the instances, events, occurrences that happened to me. I have a couple other that I'm not ready to share. Like I said, only a select few know those stories, but I thought I wanted to share that. I thought it would be something beautiful, and I hope that you see it the way I did, which was comforting. It really was. But especially now, especially with the Maui Fire, that is just it's devastating. My heart goes out to all of those people, and it's just awful. I wish we could do more, and just hearing and watching the videos, and it just reminds me that even though we don't know what's going on, we don't understand it, we can't believe it's happening, there's a reason for everything. And I hope that eventually we'll see why this happened. Maybe it'll change the way they maintain, because I know a lot of people, like I said, are pushing the DW conspiracy, but what people don't realize is out in Maui, a lot of the vegetation around like electrical poles and like just basic upkeep of a city wasn't being done. Money wasn't being allotted appropriately and taking care of the streets and the power lines. And when you have mulch and vegetation covering an actual power line or down power lines throughout the city, and a fire like that hits, it's like a tinder block. It just goes up in flames, and that's exactly what happened. Now, is it the cause? I don't know. Nobody knows the cause yet until the investigation is done. But I did want to mention that because that's always been an issue out in Hawaii, and not just Maui, but a lot of their other cities face the same type of just basic upkeep of the city itself. But I think that's where I'm going to end it tonight, because I just feel like I bared my soul to you guys. So tomorrow we'll go back to normal programming. We'll talk about alien stuff, because that is all over the news. So many the Peru aliens. There's so much going around with that, as far as like miners and aliens and just so many different conspiracies. That's interesting. And the videos that are still coming out, people are still looking and seeing things, and it definitely feels like something big is happening, right? I don't know if I'm the only one that feels like that. Like something big is happening. We're getting ready to have a huge change, and not just the United States, but it seems like all of mankind. We're getting ready for this huge, massive change, and it just feels like electricity in the air. It'd just be me reading into it, but that's what it feels like to me. It just so much. And I keep questioning why is all of this happening? Our weather, our aliens, we're seeing all these other paranormal creatures coming out. Like, again, are we in retrograde? What's going on, people? But we will talk about all of that in the next couple of episodes, because I have so many things to talk to you guys about. And then lastly, I wanted to kind of touch on was the DFW plane lady who came forward. I was thinking about sharing her little interview that she did, I don't know, with TMZ, whoever, she released it too. But then I'm like, I'm done. I'm over that. She basically just apologized. She didn't acknowledge why she said what she said. She didn't acknowledge what she saw. She just basically apologized for her actions and now wants to, stop the bullying, which I actually agree about the bullying. I think the bullying, online bullying needs to, and we're adults, but we're doing it. But I really think we need to do a bigger stance on that because that's pretty major. But I really am not going to share her interview. If you guys want to see it, it's on TMZ. I think all the main news outlets are sharing it now. That's out there. But for now, good night, stay safe, and if you have any of your stories you would like to share, you can remain anonymous. Please send them to me. If you have videos, please send them to me. My email is theparanormalchick, CHIC@gmail.com, or theparanormalchick@icloud.com. Instagram right now seems to be the easiest way to get me footage, videos, if they're not too long. If they're long, you're just going to have to email it. I promise I will respond. It may take a while, but I will get there. Other than that, y'all, thank you so much and have a good night.